Good morning. Good morning.
Hi, Cameron. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Yeah.
Good.
We have sunshine.
We do.
Yeah.
Well, not anymore.
Well,
If you're unless you're
that's
referring
right.
to God's sunshine.
Hopefully this burns off
Yeah.
today.
I thought you were referring to Todd showing up in the room. You
Oh,
said
there it is. There's our sunshine.
There's our sunshine.
There's some light.
And there's Elliot.
Yep.
Yay.
All right. Reunited and it feels so good.
Sing it.
You should start the show with that.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
She's in a very musical family, Cameron.
Clearly.
Yes.
Her daughter is in a cover band for Linda Ronstadt, and they use her pictures on some of the aftermarket CDs that get thrown out on the street.
Black market stuff, yeah.
No kidding, eh?
We don't do it, but
No, by
eBay
accident.
does it.
That's how much she looked like Linda Ronstadt, 40 years ago.
That's not funny.
Cool.
That's
She's got
cool.
a Sheryl Crow tribute band now too.
And now she's got Sheryl Crow, and so Jackie's husband manages 6 cover bands now.
Oh, at
Wow.
least, yeah.
The Eagles, Styx.
Paul McCartney, Boston.
Wow.
Now he's got his own little radio, his FM 69, which does songs from 69. And he's also doing a John Mellencamp, John Cougar band now.
You
Just
should
so
bring
you
him
know.
on the show for an interview.
Well, he doesn't have a book.
Oh, you don't need a book.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy, though. Very talented, great singer. Oh my gosh, his voice is amazing.
And
Yeah,
we've
well-
written and produced and directed together 6 musicals.
Wow.
6 stage musicals.
I was in it.
That's right. Todd was one of
I was the DJ.
stars.
Can you imagine that, Cameron? Me as the DJ?
That's pretty awesome, Todd.
Well, just a big thank you for including me in your series. And
yeah.
for making me feel so comfortable at home and welcome during the last
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah, it's delightful to have you.
Yeah, we're gonna create some. And Elliot, you are free to do with the content as you wish. Jackie creates a nice little blog post after the show talking about the show. It gets loaded in iTunes, iHeart.
Yeah.
We have a YouTube channel, and you can link and share and put it around all you want.
Yeah.
Perfect. Great.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. We create great content for people to be able to make different choices, right? Or our philosophy really is we just plant the seeds for people, maybe further on down the road, they think, oh yeah, well, maybe I should check that out.
We are sowers of seeds.
Maybe I should find Elliot's book. That would be cool. Yeah.
Whatever floats your boat.
No. How much time we got, Cam?
You got about a minute to go.
Where did Cam go?
You got about 45 seconds to go.
Okay.
Stand by.
Oh, and I have a very short poem, so
Cool.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm not wedded to it, but whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't hear the feed, Cam.
Are
if
those
you
of the guest hosts and callers, and not
Yes.
necessarily of this station, its management, or other advertisers.
Oh, there you go. That's what we need in the beginning.
Welcome to Life Mastery with Todd Allen, the talk radio show that dives into the science of higher consciousness. Join Todd and his guests weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific Time and learn how to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery. Enjoy a survey of inspiring topics such as abundance, intention, health, manifestation, love, and transformation. It's all right here. Leading authors, speakers, coaches, entrepreneurs with stories and messages to support your well-being, let alone your most evocative dreams.
I love that.
Mana, mana.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in today. We'll see you next week.
Oh, that was too cool. Yeah, we got to use that more often. Welcome to Life Mastery Radio with Todd and Jackie. And today's show is going to be a really cool show because we're going to find out really the simplicity behind saying yes. I think we make that a little more complicated than what it needs to be. As always, today's a groovy day because it's Life Mastery Radio Day. I get to hang out with my good friend, maybe it's this way, my good friend Jackie. And when I got up this morning, I decided to say yes to it being a groovy day. And that's the way it is. I go throughout my day, it might be groovy and things might happen, but I always reflect back and think, oh, I started off my day with Jackie Bailey. That was kind of cool. So that's the way it's going to work today.
Are you ever not groovy? Are you ever not groovy, Todd?
Yeah.
I have never seen you not groovy.
I know. That's because when I get up in the morning, it's already a groovy day. It's the way it works. I know.
All right.
Pretty cool. As always, I like to get myself connected before the show and really get conscious, really give some thought to what it is that you're connected to. Where does that power come from? Where does that inspiration come from? Where it could be the tree outside your window. It could be God. It could be Allah. It could be, what did Pam call it? The dude.
The dude.
Yeah, a dude. It could be the dude. It could be the doorknob that leads you into your office. Who knows? But let's just consciously think about that and take in a deep breath all the way down deep. And let that breath out with just a big ah. Focus on that connection. And just let it come up through your solar plexus and out your speaker box. And let's do that one more time. And this time, think about those dreams, visions, and goals. Big breath in, take those way down deep, and just let them out. Up your solar plexus, out your speaker box. And for sure, allow the universe the opportunity to make those come true for you. And you can do that at any time. It's kind of a cool little exercise. Gets you connected, gets you thinking about it. And it gets you really thinking about, why am I here? And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in the show today. But as always, my co-host is with me today, Jackie Bailey. Are
you saying I'm a Muppet?
No. And you can see in the background there, Jackie's got her classroom.
Schoolhouse. Todd calls it my schoolhouse.
The schoolhouse.
Schoolhouse.
It was a schoolhouse. And Jackie, just recently we were sharing and getting ready for the show, she just got approved by, what did you say, 39 schools in a school district to be able to post a flyer about her process, her teachings, her classes. And guess what? When you do something like that, the phone starts ringing off the hook. Maybe tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, the reason that I decided to start a nonprofit with my for-profit business already being somewhat successful in teaching public speaking was so that I could get into the public school system, because they won't look at you. They won't talk to you. They put their hand up and say, talk to the hand, if you're not a nonprofit business organization. So it's been a 3 or 4 month process, and I've been back and forth with the school district, and no, your number's not right, or no, your website's not right, or something. And so finally this past week they approved this flyer to be sent out, and I think it went out probably on Friday. So Monday morning, bam, like 8 o'clock, I started getting all these calls, and I was thinking they were robocalls because I get a lot of robocalls. And so I didn't answer the first few of them. And then when they left voicemails, I thought, well, that's strange. I'll see what these people have to say. And lo and behold, it was parents that got this email of the flyer that was sent and want to talk to me about putting their kids in my classes. And then my inbox exploded. There were all kinds of people emailing me at the same time. And so it was a very busy day just trying to keep up. And it was a really good problem to have.
Well, totally. Boom. The universe just opened up and said, okay, is this really what you want? Here we go. But persistence, I think, was the key too, Jackie, because it's kind of frustrating. And you know, and just kind of like, oh my gosh, another hill, another hump, another something to do.
One more dot to what have you? And one more I to dot, and one more T to cross.
T to cross.
And you just kind of keep going, plug it along, and eventually you see some results.
That's so cool.
What happens today?
Yeah.
If I get calls during the show, if you see me going like this.
No.
You'll know I'm talking to more people.
Oh, that is so cool. And you can find out more by going to JackieBaileySpeaks.com. I think she has everything up there. There's information about her nonprofit. And I think there's even a link to Jackie has a book too. Where's Jackie's book?
Dude, Jackie's book happens to be right here.
The
Self-centered leadership. Becoming intentional, influential, and exceptional. Ta-da!
You can find the link to her book. It is on Amazon, and it's a really cool read. And that book, you wrote that. When did you? It's like 6.
That was 2014. Yeah, it's been 6 years.
So she did that, and I'm thinking, Jackie wrote a book. If Jackie can write a book, I can write a book. So
Anybody can do it.
I wrote my book, and Jackie was certainly the inspiration, because that's where I got the idea, and that's where I just did it. So it's 6 keys.
Yay.
Yay. And you can find that book at our website at www.lifemasteryradio.net. And today's show page includes all the links to our guests that we have on today and anything else that we talk about. And while you're there, there's a simple little button that you can click on that will sign you up for our newsletter. Jackie puts out a newsletter every week, and it talks about who's been on the show and who's coming on the show. And it includes the blog post from the previous show that Jackie wrote about what we talked about on the show. So it's kind of cool. She's busy. She's a busy woman.
Yep. But it's fun.
Yeah.
Having a good time.
Go to
Feeling groovy.
www.lifemasteryradio.net. This show will also be loaded up into YouTube. We have a cool YouTube channel. All our shows are there, at least all of our video recording shows. And you can share and click and watch and get groovy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Are we ready for the show? Have we done enough?
I'm ready. I'm ready to say yes to the show. I am ready to say yes.
Okay, here we go. Our guest today is Elliot Robertson. And Elliot is a happiness coach and a certified leader for Happy for No Reason workshops. He also holds a master's degree in psychology. Previously, he was a staff writer for Daily Word magazine, and his articles have appeared in magazines across the country, including Miracles magazine and The Science of Mind. He is here today because he wrote this really cool little book. Cue for Elliot to hold up the book. Say Yes to Life, 7 Keys to Living Full Out from Within. And Elliot, welcome to the show today, my friend. How are you today?
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm doing great. It's so refreshing to be around people who have a wonderful sense of humor.
It's kind of hanging out with Jackie. It's just natural, and it just happens. I don't know. It's the way it goes. So, Elliot, this book, I don't want to get into where this book came from, but it is very deep. It's very, very thoughtful. And, it almost seemingly comes from a divine space. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got so connected.
How I got connected so that writing flows through me. I think it's just a gift that I was born with. In any event, I have, been very much involved with, when I was a 17-year-old, I was going to Unity Church.
Oh, right.
Being dragged to Unity Church by my mother, but that's not true at all. I loved every minute of it. And Eric Butterworth was the minister in New York back then. He's famous in Unity circles. And then also when I was 17, I was given the autobiography of Alan Watts. I think my mother gave that to me. And I don't remember anything about that book except the title. The title is In My Own Way. And I decided that's just the perfect title for everyone's autobiography. And I decided that there must be at least 7 billion religions out there.
Yeah.
So I've always been had these inner spiritual sensibilities. And then since then I have had some resistance to Christianity. Then I became a Quaker. Then I left Quakerism for
Wow.
Episcopal Church, where I am now, because I just love the Eucharist. I fell in love with Kuan Yin when I saw a picture of her when I was visiting a friend. So I'm just so very into spiritual. So that's a little bit of my background, I guess, as far as
Well, have you,
religion goes.
so you started going to Unity when you were 17. So was that your spiritual experience? I mean, did you really start to get spiritual then, or did it, all of those seeds being planted when you were a teenager, then sprout sometime later?
I've always, even before then, I've always been very much a spiritual being,
Right on.
very much aware of it. Even when I was 7, I decided that God was talking to me. So it goes way back. Yeah, I just love the expansive world.
So what do you feel you get from that spiritual side of life that you don't get from other areas of life? What does it feed into you?
Well, I guess it helps.
Todd, careful, there's a wild cat around. It's going to jump on you.
That's Bandit. Bandit wanted to say hello to everybody, and then he
Yeah, I come to think of it, I think spirituality does help me to say yes to who I am. It's a whole lot of it is really about worthiness, authenticity. That's where my true self is. So that's, at least when I'm playing in the spiritual world, that's where I experience my true self. I'm sure it would be lovely to have that expand. I may be a very narrow person. I'd love to experience my true self and across the board. That would be lovely.
Yeah.
Well, so was the book actually a creation to start experimenting with that, or did you already have some of these? I mean, they're very profound, but very deep ideas about how we can, well, say yes to life, or say yes to ourselves, or understand ourselves even deeper.
Well, the book came to me I just find that sometimes things come to me when I have my notebook and paper handy when I'm at a cafe.
I've heard that before. Let me guess. Is it all about journaling?
Not really journaling. It's just that I just love to write whatever comes to me, whatever flows through falls on the paper. I'm a natural writer. And so I was just getting a lot of paragraphs coming to me, all of them beginning with say yes to God. Initially, that was the title of the book, and since then I've changed the title to Say Yes to Life. Same difference.
Right.
So in any event, I didn't really have a subtitle until much later. The book didn't really take form. I didn't realize it was going to be 7 keys until much later. So there was the first just writing, all sorts of ways of saying life, all sorts of things around that. And then after I had a bunch of stuff written, I sort of put it together, cobbled it together, saw some structure.
So what do you advise people? I mean, what does it mean to say yes to life? Because I kind of feel like I don't have a choice. I'm in life. Life is the way it is. So what does it mean? What does it mean to say yes to it?
That's so funny that you were saying you don't have a choice, because when I was writing that, initially, it didn't occur to me that we have a choice to say yes or no to life, and to say yes or no to the new, to say yes or no to our uniqueness, our expansiveness, and everything else in the book. It wasn't until after the book was published and I was looking at the table of contents that it just hit me from out of the blue. Oh my goodness, I mean, it's so obvious. I don't know why it took me a year after starting writing it to notice that. But what does it mean, to get to your question? I'm just hoping that the book will help people get beyond the monkey mind and step out of any self-made prisons, get beyond any contraction and constriction. A lot of those things are what interfere with saying yes to life. When we're lost in bitterness or self-pity, we're definitely saying no to life. And I have done that for years and years. I could tell you about that if you'd like to know more about that.
Well, yeah, that sounds like an interesting part of your life, because it sounds like earlier you've always been this spiritual being, you've always felt a connection to the spiritual, right? But now you're saying that there was a time when maybe you didn't feel as connected to that. So yeah, I'd be interested in hearing that.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, both went hand in hand. There I was reading Carolyn Mace and Meister Eckhart's sermons as a youngster, and I guess I was sort of spiritualizing the ego. Maybe it was just maybe on a mental level or something. So I don't think it was nearly as deep as today, because these days I wake up with gratitude usually and joy. So I was really in a different space back then. When I was in my youth in New York City, I would just walk around Chelsea. I would see all the guys in the outdoor cafes with their friends. And immediately, as soon as I laid eyes on people at these cafes I couldn't afford, jealousy would just pop up, and I would just be in a soup of bitterness 24/7. Not that I really was aware of that back then. It's looking backwards that I see it. I would go to a grocery store, and somebody would have a basket full of goodies, and I was down to my last few dollars, just picking up an item or two. The jealousy would kick in, and of course the person who had a basket full of goodies was younger than me. I always was so lacking in self-confidence that I just didn't think I was capable of doing anything other than an entry-level job. And I was always working, getting peanuts, and always losing my job. And so anyway, I was just quite certain that life was unfair. And at the same time, when I was 20, I had gotten some clarity. I had overheard a couple of ladies talking about how they wanted to heal the world. And in that moment, I knew heal the world was not what my gig was all about. It just didn't resonate with me. I knew instantly, uplift was the word for me. And I am here to work on a soul level. I'm here to uplift people on a soul level, has been my mission statement ever since. So there I was saying to God, this is so unfair because I want to serve the world. I had this passion ever since I was 20 for just contributing to the world and helping other people out. And I just wasn't able to, pay to go to workshops. I wasn't able to find my first baby steps in that direction. Eventually, I did end up taking ownership and stopped blaming my father and blaming God and blaming everything around me. And I caught myself being jealous. And that was the beginning of, that's always the beginning. That's the foundation, is just taking ownership, letting go of the shame, the bitterness, and all the things that are contractions and constrictions, and saying yes to the expansiveness. And that's the first key in the book.
What's the first key? Saying yes to expansiveness?
Yeah. Which is the opposite of what I was doing throughout my youth.
Right, okay. Oh.
Well, I want to be back up the truck a little bit, because I can't imagine what compelled you to check out being a Quaker. Was there something or some influence that you had, or was it just something that you were curious about?
I've always liked Quakers. At least the Quakers Quakers are such a diverse group, but the Quaker circle that I knew about on the East Coast has always been very interspiritual. So that's always appealed to me. And also very much without dogma. In other words, everyone who shows up at worship is a minister, and there is no laity. Right. And that is so central to who I am. I just want to see myself as a minister in the broadest sense of the word. And so that really appealed to me. Interesting. That's pretty cool, because I've always been intrigued about it too. It's like, what is the appeal? I mean, there's a huge population that are involved in it, and it's kind of cool, and they live a different lifestyle, but yet it's so simple.
I think that's the key, the simplicity.
Yeah, the simplicity, right? Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I even ended up here recently. Well, let me back up just a little bit. I toured a Mennonite community up in Calgary, Canada, and was just fascinated with the lifestyle and what they did and how. And so here recently, I thought that I needed a couple more chickens. So I went on Craigslist and I found this guy, and he had chickens, and I ended up driving way out into the dingleberries. And sure enough, I ended up at a Mennonite community to get a couple of chickens. And the guy was just amazingly sweet and kind and caring and nice kept place. And I'll tell you, it had to have transferred into those chickens, because those chickens are kind, caring, and sweet, and they want to be my friend, and they want me to pick them up and hold them. And oh my gosh, it was just really cool.
It's just because you're a chick magnet, Todd.
Yeah, don't tell my business.
Now, Elliot, you're in Philadelphia, right?
That's right. And there are a
So
lot of Quakers
you're not
here.
far, and Amish as well. You're not far from all the large Amish community.
Yeah, I think
So
it's
is
much.
that something that you've also checked out, is the Amish lifestyle?
No, I haven't. I guess maybe way back historically, the Amish, Mennonites, and Quakers were somewhat associated or whatever. But since then, I think they've branched off. There are lots of Quakers walking around Philadelphia on the street, and you would never know it. Not everyone looks like the Quaker Oats box.
So they're a little more progressive now then.
A little, yeah, just
Yeah.
blending in with everybody else.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay.
So
Cool.
let's talk about a little bit more about the book, Elliot. I think during our green room meeting, and from me reading it, I'll say I scanned through it. I haven't read every word for word, but I really take pride, and we do take pride in understanding who our guests are and what their thoughts and ideas are. And I really picked up in the beginning of the book that your whole inspiration for this book was to help create a transformation. You notice a huge calling and a lack of people, like you said, being able to say yes to life because they don't know what that looks like. Maybe explain that a little bit more to us about this inspiration that helped you create this book.
Everything I do is about service and transformation. That's just my joy in life. And
cool.
Yeah, at least these days, that's really what life's all about. The writing process, it just started coming to me and I just wrote it down, but I guess we already went over that. Saying yes to life is just such a key to having happiness. And
well, I guess my question was what are you noticing going on in society today that this book then came forward with your voice and with your message to help plant the seeds?
Yeah, a lot of people I think are depressed. In fact, the studies that were recently published in the Wall Street Journal show that every group is having an increase in depression, and especially the teenagers.
Yeah.
So that concerns me. So I feel like part of what we need to do is to really get beyond the monkey mind and go into the heart. We really need to, as A Course of Love says, the mind needs to appeal to the heart. A Course of Love was written after A Course in Miracles. So I'm really hoping that people will be able to sort of dive into the book and experience the marinade that it offers, experience the self-care, and that will sort of help them on the journey from the mind to the heart. This isn't really a standard self-help book. It isn't full of theory, full of tips, full of exercises. Maybe it does have a few exercises, and I guess some of the wisdom could be used as tips to help apply what's in the book. But mostly I feel like it's just sort of like a bubble bath. It's something that people can go to after a tough day at work or whatever, and just let there be some osmosis from the marinade.
You can tell Elliot's a writer, right? So we heard marinade. I mean, that's a very descriptive word. And then we took us to a bubble bath.
Right.
That's very cool. Very cool words.
I always mix the metaphors, always.
That's great. Now so we know the first key you said is yes to expansiveness. What would be another key in your book?
Say yes to your uniqueness is one of my favorites. And I guess you could equate that with saying yes to who you are. For saying yes to your uniqueness, a lot of that is saying yes to the unique gifts that you came to the world to share. We're in a time when we really need to be saying yes to our gifts. I feel like we're in an era when we're being supported in saying yes to saying yes to life, saying yes to our gifts, and just sharing them with the world.
As you have done. And I understand some of your gifts, Elliot, is poetry, right?
Yes.
And you've written some poems. Some of them have been published. Some of them not.
Yes. Yeah, and some of the magazines, yes.
Yeah. And I understand you might just have a poem waiting in the wings that you could share with us.
Sure, I'd be glad to share.
Would you be willing to share that uniqueness of you?
A unique poem from Elliot Robertson.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. Leave space for tulips. A poem can't be forced. It must be honored. Just as a tree can't force a leaf to grow when it's unready. Leave space for tulips and roses to unfold, and train your eye to watch the shadows merge into the light. The darkest hours wane when what is sad, desperate, and mean is given space to breathe and showered with silk scarves, honey, and hugs.
Wow. There's
Very
some
nice.
beautiful language there. Some
So-
great images produced from that.
Yeah, and what I picked up on is our inability to, I guess, be open and to notice things around us. And I think that's a lot of what your book is saying yes to life, and not keeping your head down and your tail between your legs and going on as like a robot.
Yeah, when you're in your heart, you're going to be in your true self. That's where the throne of God is. I use traditional language sometimes, even though I love the modern books as well. So the throne of God, your divinity, your true self, is in the heart. And then when you're in your mind, that's sort of a distraction. The monkey mind can be a harsh, judgmental place to live your life 24/7.
You've said monkey mind a couple of times, Elliot. Why don't you expand on that a little bit? What does it mean to have monkey mind?
That's could be thought of as the false self, the small self, the judgmental self, and it's the place where surrender isn't really possible. It's where fear is the underlying dynamic. So that would prevent you from falling into surrender and being in the flow and embracing who you are. My book could have been called Embrace Who You Are. That's really equally what it's all about. The heart is really the place that is naturally and organically embracing yourself. That's why the heart's at the center of this book. The heart is always saying yes to your uniqueness, saying yes to expansiveness, to spiritual growth. I feel like this is a time when we really need to be focusing on spiritual growth in this era. And I also feel like this era is supporting us in spiritual growth more than ever before. And part of that is self-care that can really serve your spiritual growth.
Well, it was just a few weeks ago we had on the show Stephanie Redfeather, who has written a book called The Evolutionary Empath. And she referenced the age of Aquarius, and that we're now in this time in history where there's this ascension of energy, this ascension of spiritualness, and that the world is starting to wake up to it. Sounds like you are on the same wavelength with Stephanie Redfeather in that this is something the world needs, and that there are individuals who are waking up to this and going to be the ones to break through the stereotypes, to break through that monkey mind, as you put it, and help people to see something better. Help us to say yes to a different way of thinking, a different perspective, a different connection to something bigger than ourselves. Am I on the same wavelength with you?
That connection is so key. And when we're tapping into our hearts and tapping into that connection and that flow, we do have a higher altitude. We get beyond that small circumference that leads to self-pity, to poor me, to all of those really illusions. If we feel like we're trapped and in our self-made prison, we really are lost in an illusion, because the truth is that we are so glorious. We're all unique magnifying glasses for God. And so we all uniquely allow God to shine through our being. one of the things that I'm hoping my book will accomplish is, in addition to helping us tap into the divinity within our hearts, I'm hoping that people will walk away from the book with a greater sense of optimism. Terry Patton wrote a book a few years ago about how that could be the key in the tipping point, so to speak, in our evolution. That if we fail to have optimism, if we get really lost in all of the news stories that come out every day and in the bleakness that seems to be around us, that negativity could get in the way of the momentum of evolution. So we really need to be joyful and optimistic. The Pope Francis has made the same point, I guess, although he hasn't really connected it with evolution. He really despises optimism.
Yeah. I want to remind our listeners that our guest today, if you just tuned in, our guest today is Eliot Robertson, and he has written a really cool book. Cue to hold up book for Elliot. Say Yes to Life, 7 Keys to Living Full Out from Within. And in my research, I like to surf around and find out what other people think and what other people have in mind. And I found this, and I wanted to share it with you. Say Yes to Life is definitely a book I will return to and buy as a gift for everyone I love. What a refreshing, uplifting experience this book is, as it overflows with wisdom that speaks to my heart in so many tender ways. Healing and inspiring. Thank you, Elliot Robertson. And that was submitted by Christina. And Elliot, you hear things like that, and doesn't that make it all worth it?
I'm just so humbled. I would just be so humbled to meet somebody on the street who says that my book helped them to fall in love with themselves, or help them to focus more on spiritual growth, or help them to trust the universe more.
You know, something that I was reminded of before our little commercial, that was kind of a cool little commercial, is the thought that, you know, change only comes really from, it doesn't have to, but it comes from desperation. And you were talking about this critical point, and I was thinking, you know, we're reaching this critical point because people are becoming desperate. They don't have the answers. They're looking for solutions. They're, like you said, in desperation. Drugs are rampant and easy to get addicted to. And all of these things, you know, to me, are creating a huge sense of desperation. And here comes a book like your book that has a sense of instilling transformation. Is that kind of what you were alluding to a little bit? I know that it doesn't have to be desperation that creates change or causes people to want something more, but it seems like that's the way it goes.
Well, Barbara Marx Hubbard, the late lovely mother.
I studied with her.
Me too. Oh, she's beloved. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she was.
Oh, my heart.
Now you're both feeling groovy.
Oh, she was such a kindred spirit, and oh man, yeah. But
my heart is jumping for joy just mentioning her name. And of course, she did say that that evolution is driven by crises, and she looks back at the history of our planet Earth even before humans appeared, and gives examples of how that is so true scientifically. So I think you're onto something about how crisis and desperation, I think those who are into archetypes and chaos will also say that chaos is usually a precursor and a necessary step in the journey of the hero, in the hero's journey. It's a precursor to standing in the hero, standing in the greatness, discovering the greatness and magnificence that we are.
Okay, so it's time for another key.
Another key.
Yes.
So we've got yes to expansiveness, yes to uniqueness. What else can you tell us?
Well, let's talk about the path from the mind to the heart. That's a key, right? Is finding that path from the mind to the heart, Elliot? Or did I write that down wrong?
That's an overarching theme. That's what the book as a whole is all about. Okay. And all of these keys, I feel, give us clues as to how we can make that journey. For example, say yes to grief is the key.
Oh.
The
Oh, really? Want
points
to
us
say
to the
yes to
heart.
grief?
Yes. Saint Therese provides an example of that. She lost her mother when she was 4 years old, and then her older sister became her second mother. When she was 9 years old, her second sister went to a convent, a Carmelite convent, which meant that they wouldn't see each other anymore. So she was devastated both times, of course, and she cried her tears and she felt all of her feelings full out. And from there, she went on with her life. She always had a lot of trust in the universe. And so that's something that also helps saying yes to life, is having trust in the universe. I really do think that Einstein was correct when he said one of the most important questions to answer is, is the universe a friendly place? Yes or no? If you answer it with a yes, that can really be helpful to your
Sure.
trust of the universe and to saying yes to life. And St. Therese is one example of somebody who did that. Even in the midst of storms and losing her mother and so on and so forth, she knew there was something greater out there. Anne Frank was being chased by the Nazis. And at the same time, she was writing a journal which has evidence that she was saying yes to life and trusting in the benevolence of the universe. She was talking about the goodness of humans while she was hiding from the Nazis.
Right, right.
There's also a very quick story about St. Francis. He was just walking in nature as he always did. He was near a ditch. He ran into four guys who decided that for no reason at all just to push him in the ditch. He landed in the snow and ice. It was wintertime. What happened was he had divine laughter. He just had found humor in it and divine laughter in it. No, oh God, how could you do this to me? This is so unfair. None of that. His level of consciousness and his trust in the universe was so great that it didn't matter what was happening in the outer world. His trust was unconditional. His trust, his relationship with his heart and his true self was unconditional.
Well, that's a really great example then of saying yes to grief. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, I think, that's huge in you talked about the monkey mind too. And I had a hard time with that when I first heard that term. That's a Buddhist term for, our minds just, blah. And then I was talking to somebody about it one day and they said, Todd, look at it like this. It's like taking a Super Ball and throwing it as hard as you can into a closet and closing the door. That's the monkey mind. And then I got it. I was like, oh, I know what you're talking about. So that's kind of that monkey mind mentality. And I didn't know where I was going with that. I had a question and poof, it was gone.
I think the monkey mind must be the opposite of a groovy mind, don't you think?
I think so. So Elliot, what were we were talking about the path from mind to heart, and what is it for you? What was the main thing that brought you to understand? I think for me, it was the monkey mind. And, I really used to like this ego thing. And I used to really like the acronym that the ego edges God out of our lives. And then as I studied more and became to understand it, what I came to find out is the ego blocks God from flowing through us. So it's like this block right here, and it prevents God from flowing through us and out right just above the heart. And I think that's what you were alluding to with the grief and St. Francis being shoved in the ditch, is that he was so connected and so understanding to the benevolence that he found laughter in an act that was unruly.
Perhaps you'd like to say more about that?
Sure. That's what I was alluding to, right?
Yeah, that's wonderful, and I appreciate that.
Cool. All right, so what other examples do you share in your book from people that have experienced what you're writing about? Are there other stories there?
I don't know if I have any other stories, although the book does lend itself to the imagination. There is fiction in the book, so it really does cross the different genres. It's sort of a mixture.
What compelled, I have to ask you, what compelled you to write in that style? Because you do jump around quite a bit. I did notice that there's some fiction, you're talking with avatars, you're going backwards and forwards in time. Is that the way it flowed, or is that the way you set out to create this book?
Yeah, the book was really just a bunch of small building blocks that just flowed onto the page, and then I ended up cobbling them together.
Another great metaphor.
Yeah. So what we have sort of, to mix metaphors, is a bunch of different chocolates. Some people like to read the entire book in one sitting. It's a very quick read. Other people prefer to just let it last 40 days or whatever and just read a few pages a day because, the sections are quite small.
Cool.
And I'd be glad to talk about another key if you'd like.
Yeah, well, before we do that, I want to ask, who is your ideal reader? Who are you trying to reach in this message?
Anyone who is struggling with feeling a sense of happiness and fulfillment would be one of my ideal people, because I really feel like it's a book that is geared towards supporting people and feeling joyful. Or anyone who is just feeling trapped in the prisons and the beliefs that they have built around themselves over the years, and who's longing for an experience of something greater. Anyone who senses that there's more to life and wants more intimacy and more openness with the heart, to become more available with that greater power in the universe, might find this book very compelling.
So you said a key word, and that's one of the keys, is saying yes to happiness and joy. You just mentioned joy. So describe for us what that looks like for a person to say yes to happiness and joy. I mean, Jackie and I are both happiness and joy, I think, all rolled up, but
happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy.
No. And something else that I wanted to mention too is you talked about service work and transformation. Jackie and I are both into service work. I think that's probably what brought us together is just our passion about serving others and creating that service. Okay, back to happiness and joy.
Saying yes to happiness and joy is about one piece of it is to get beyond all of the shoulds, because that can really interfere with things. Getting beyond the ideal images. In other words, if you're humble and if you allow God to work through you as God will, as opposed to saying to God, my life should be like this. This is really what I want and the way it should be. That will really go a long way to clearing the field for happiness and joy to emerge. It's also just acknowledging and appreciating the happiness and joy, the undercurrent of joy that is in your heart naturally. I really feel like we come into the world with an undercurrent of joy in our heart. We get distracted, the monkey mind takes over, and we can go for years and years without really acknowledging it, feeling it, recognizing it, appreciating it. Appreciation and acknowledgement come first. Appreciating the joy within you, the divinity within you, the magnificence and glory that God put within you at your birth. Appreciating your capacity to serve God, your heart's capacity to love. Appreciating your capacity to serve, and so on and so forth. Appreciating comes first, and then as you continue to consistently appreciate, you'll find yourself automatically and naturally becoming grateful for all of those things. Gratitude and happiness are really two strands of the DNA, perhaps. They just really go hand in hand so much. So if you find yourself graduating from the appreciation realm into the elevated gratitude realm, you have really opened the door to a world of happiness.
To me, gratitude is the master key. right? We both wrote books about, but in my book, the gratitude is the master key that will open up all of the locks, or all of my keys anyway. So it's huge. And you know, Elliot, that's something that I find just intriguing today in today's world, is how science is proving that physical changes occur in the brain with somebody that practices gratitude. And you know, their systems are high energy and the chemicals are flowing, and this is something that the ancients knew a long, long time ago.
Yes, indeed. Yes. Gratitude really is very powerful.
It's very, very, very cool stuff.
So Elliot, what's next for you? You have
Is there another book, Elliot? You have
filled
another
the
book?
world with joy and happiness and expansion and uniqueness. So what's next for you? What do you hope to do next?
I'm hoping that a book that is pretty much already written will come out soon. We'll see how that goes. That'll be a journey. It's called The Servant's Way. It's very much like The Artist's Way. Same structure with exercises and stuff to do. So it would be a wonderful group book.
And this one here, Say Yes to Life, is your second book, correct?
That's right. I wrote The Servant's Way first. It just hasn't been published yet.
Oh, okay.
And both books have a lot of similarities. My approach to life and to happiness is to cultivate, as opposed to try to get rid of. I'm not into fighting the monkey mind or anything like that. I think that cultivation and embracing are so key. We need to be listening to the voice that resists spiritual growth, that says, no, I don't want to read this book. No, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to get out of bed. And we need to have unconditional love and embracing for that voice within ourselves, within every voice, without any manipulation or without any hope that it's going to change. So cultivation and unconditional embracing show up in both books. I don't feel like it's a recovery book. The Artist's Way begins with recovering a sense of integrity, and in The Servant's Way, it's cultivating a sense of integrity, cultivating a sense of compassion. I'm very much interested in the fertilizers of the garden, the garden of the heart. The fertilizers such as humility, which is the fertilizer for identity. The fertilizers such as discernment, which helps with compassion.
Very cool.
Wow.
Elliot, we just have like 7 minutes left. I do want to give you the opportunity. You have your main website, ElliotRobertsCoach.com, and then you also have a website for the book, and you have a gift at the website. So can you tell us where that is? And we'll put that link up on lifemasteryradio.com.
Yes, whether or not you're interested in Say Yes to Life as a book, you are welcome to go to the website and get a 15-minute guided visualization that will help you with appreciating life. And also it has, as part of the bundle, as part of the free gift, you will get a few pages from the book, so you get a little taste of what Say Yes to Life is like, along with an exercise for appreciation, which is such a good starting point for the journey of saying yes to life, just beginning with appreciation. Tom Kenyon, who used to channel, maybe he still does, he channels the Hathors. The Hathors told Tom Kenyon that appreciation is the most important thing right now on the planet for humans to engage in. So if you go to www.sayestolifebook.com, your free gift is waiting for you. That's www.sayestolifebook.com.
And we'll put that link up on Life Master Radio. If you're driving, you don't have to worry about writing that down. We don't want you. It's just like a no-no. It's like texting while you're driving. Don't do that either. Is there anything we're missing, Elliot? Is there one last thought or idea that's right there on the tip of your tongue that you want to put out to our listeners?
Sure. If you know any 17-year-olds or teenagers or youngsters who are experiencing depression and having trouble, they don't have the reference points that we older people have about how we have a bad year and a good year and another bad year and another good year. They really don't get it. They think that this is the way life is. If the last year or two was bad, then they don't necessarily have a reference point for life being a cycle, lived in cycles.
Yeah, they buy into the idea that that they're all that there is. Is this the way that it's going to be?
Yeah, let the teenagers know that life is a bunch of cycles and that things can get better and do get better. That so often people who have struggled in their youth end out having glorious adulthoods.
Right. Look at me.
And me.
Well, Elliot, how do you reach the people that have left any sense of religiousness in their lives? Because the statistics are so high, especially our youth are leaving any sense of spiritual nature.
Well, first your question was who have left religiousness behind, and that doesn't concern me. I think that we're moving into a galactic age now. I'm perfectly comfortable. I really imagine that those who are leaving religiousness behind in general may be more spiritual than those who are staying in religion.
There's a lot of that. Yeah.
Okay.
But are you really asking how about those who are just not interested in spirituality?
Yeah, I mean, because the statistics show that a lot of our young people are not following in the same ways as their parents. They're believing something different, and in most cases, it's not a belief in God or any sort of spiritual connection at all. And that might be feeding into the depression that our young people are feeling or experiencing. So what does your book have something to offer for those families who might have a child or a partner that's feeling there's nothing left for me there?
I love that question. I'm going to continue to think about that over the next few weeks. I'm guessing that since the word heart is the most frequent word in the entire book, that really is the center of my book, is our relationship with our heart, our relationship with ourselves. It's not so much about the divine-human relationship. I think that's certainly there, but it also has a place where somebody could connect with the book if they're interested in healing their heart and healing their relationship with themselves. So I'm hoping that might be the crack or crevice through which somebody might be able to enter the book.
Wow.
Totally, because I think, like Jackie said, they are leaving religion, they're leaving that understanding, but yet there's still a hunger for something. They're looking for something.
Oh, yeah.
They need to know, why am I here? What is the purpose? What's the deal? And like you said, Elliot, I think some of them end up on that track. Well, there's no hope. I think wasn't that your point? That, and hope is another huge realization that there's something more to life, is having hope and faith.
Yes.
Very, very cool. Okay. I think, let's see, the clock on the wall says 3 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes? Oh yeah, it just clicked. Elliot, entice us to go and check your website out. What would you say in a brief amount of time?
The website has the gift, and it also has some more descriptions about the book. So if you'd like to learn more about the book, you can go there. I'm just hoping that this book might actually also help people with balancing masculine and feminine. It doesn't discuss that, but I think when the mind is appealing to the heart, that naturally happens. So for those who are interested in balancing the yin and the yang within themselves, and really healing that relationship and making the yin and the yang equal within, and also in the outer world, this book might actually support that.
Very cool. And that is a fascinating statement, that diving down into the heart will help balance the feminine and the masculine. That's a very cool thought. I really like that. Elliot, I want to thank you for joining us on the show today. It's been a joy talking to you about you and your book. I want to remind our listeners to go to www.lifemasteryradio.net, and all the links that we talked about are there. Jackie, any takeaways? Did you have fun today?
Oh, had lots of fun today. And Elliot has been a delight to have. And I wish you all the luck in the world with your book. And just tell our listeners, say yes to Elliot's book.
Say yes.
Say yes. Go out, buy it, read it, and enjoy it.
Say yes
Thank
to
you.
life. I think that is just such a basic concept, yet it's not that easy to do. And Elliot today on the show talked about those simple things. Thanks again, Elliot. That was, and when the new book comes out, you get a hold of Jackie and I, because we want to talk to you about that one too. So
Sure.
keep us in mind. That's about all we have time for today, my friends. I hope you enjoyed the show. And Jackie's right. Elliot was a delight. His book's a delight. And if you know somebody that would benefit from a book like Elliot's, or yourself, anybody, give it to somebody that you love. It's a really cool book. Lastly, I just want to say bye-bye for now, because it's all about choice. And you can choose to say yes to life and to say yes to Elliot's book right after the show. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Thanks.